Hello, hi everybody. Really nice to have you guys here, and thanks for staying behind. I am joined by a group of 5 other people with me on stage today, and I'd like to invite maybe Ruam up on stage. Maybe you can come up and we can introduce the rest of them. Didi, Chung, and James, and Chinta. Thank you. Step. So we have a very diverse panel today. I will give them some time to introduce themselves, but you'll find out that they operate in all across the world, some of them with very specific regions that they focus on. Before I go on and on, maybe I can ask Ruam to introduce yourself and the company you're with.
Sure. Thank you, Edward. And thank you everyone here today as well for joining us in the panel and the SEABW. So my name is Ruam. I'm currently with SCBX as the blockchain and digital asset lead. So SCBX is a financial technology group that is based in Thailand. We aspire to be a regional financial technology group that makes finance more simple, accessible, and affordable for everyone through technology and innovation. So our blockchain-related companies are TokenX, which is a tokenization partner. We have InnovestX with their digital asset brokerage and exchange licenses in Thailand, and we also have investments through our corporate venture capital arm SCB10X, and we also do direct investment through SCBX. We also partner with Hash in Korea, and right now we have an innovation lab called Shard Lab, who is actually one of the main organizers for this SEA Blockchain Week.
Hello, I'm Didi, the Chief Communications and Marketing Officer of Bitazza. It's Thailand's licensed trading platform. Also on the side, we have a Freedom Card, which is a Visa card integrated into the Bitazza wallets. And on the Freedom ecosystem side, we developed and basically offer a Web3 super app for anyone who's interested to, join this really complicated Web3 world. Actually, I represent the few, I'm going to say female, in the industry, but also someone who didn't come from financial and banking or even tech background. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about how we can, be approachable and how we can be, more easily accessed. Because we, especially Bitazza, we believe in lowering the barrier to entry and being inclusive for everybody.
All right, Chinta.
A very good afternoon to one and all. I'm Chinta, the General Manager for Singapore for Crypto.com. For those of you all who are not so familiar with Crypto.com, we are proudly headquartered and licensed in Singapore, which makes it our home market, but also it's a strategic location for our leadership and founders to be based out of. And it's a global base from which we serve our 18 million customers through our ecosystem of services, which includes trading. We also have a Visa prepaid card, NFT marketplace, and other services. So we also are strongly engaged with the DeFi marketplace or ecosystem through our Capital.com, our Crypto.com Capital, as well as our Global Innovation Lab. So we look forward to the partnership with all the innovators here. I've been really taken aback by the level of energy and passion that I've met in everybody I've met so far in the past 2 days. So it's a real pleasure to be here and looking forward to the discussion today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chung. You can call me Chung, you can call me Ying, whatever you like, as long as convenient. So I'm the founder and CEO of D3 Labs. So we are primarily focused in Indonesia. Less of crypto, but more blockchain solution towards like financial institutions, like asset managers, banks. So mainly we're focusing on like how to help banks to adopt blockchain for cross-border settlements, very wholesale B2B side, and also now recently we start doing more of tokenization initiative with the banks on how can they tokenize their mortgages, loans, bonds onto a public chain where they can be distributing to retails and other overseas asset managers companies. My personal background is I'm from Singapore. I think most of you guys suspect, but I have been in Indonesia since 2017 for Toko Crypto, which we exited, and now full-time in D3 Labs since 2022. I think that's all.
Awesome. Test 1, 2. First of all, thank you to SCB Hash, Shard Labs, ZK Sync for sponsoring and putting all of us together over here. Thank you guys for being here. And it's a 5 p.m. on the second day of a conference. So y'all are the real MVPs. Thank you guys for sitting through all this. How y'all doing? I'm James, co-founder and CEO of Jambo. Very simple. We're bringing emerging markets on chain through our first product, the $99 Jambo smartphone, which some of the clothes that you guys are wearing right now is more expensive than this phone, just so you know. Ethnically Chinese, but grew up in Africa. And growing up, in Africa, there's just 3 problems that every day you face: cross-border payments, remittances, and banking and bank. And all of that leads to basically this question here. Not even 300 million. How do you onboard the next billion users? Not the same guys that are points farming, airdrop farming, but the new users in Latam, in Brazil, and Congo, and Philippines that were 0 to 1. Doesn't need to know what crypto is, but can actually send it to their boy. Like, I grew up in Africa. I went to school in New York, right? Studied computer science at NYU. My friends in Africa, in Congo, spend and use crypto every day, just like my friends in New York. The difference is my friends in New York use it to trade. They use the airdrop farm. They're doing all that, like you probably doing. But my friends in Congo, they can't send money to their boys in Ghana or anywhere else in Africa, like a Venmo or a WeChat Pay. There is no rails built up here in these emerging markets. And at the end of the day, all that begins and ends with mobile. So, very happy to be here and explain and go through this.
James is leaking a lot of alpha, but the end goal is to make sure that you guys all get a Jumbo phone at some point in time. Right, James?
I hope that you guys all get it in the raffle, but for real, if y'all being here right now, y'all deserve a Jumbo phone, man, at 5 p.m. Damn.
Yeah, I think I'm going to dissect a little bit. We have a very global mix, like I said. We got very big powerhouses on the panel with us today from Thailand, a very big powerhouse from Indonesia, the only big player in South Africa, and, one of the only licensed exchanges in Singapore right now, in Crypto.com. Maybe I can direct the next question to the centralized exchanges. How are you guys looking at onboarding, I would say, the large number of retail? Maybe you can talk about some things you're seeing in your own companies. Maybe I can start with Chinta.
Hey, thanks, Edward. So centralized exchanges are kind of like sometimes you can think of us as some kind of infrastructure, right? It's where people on and off ramp. From that perspective, I really wanted to just pick up something James said, which is like I often speak in Singapore, and sometimes the folks in Singapore don't really get it, like how important crypto is as an asset category, because they just trade with it, right? They think it's speculative. But folks in jurisdictions where, monetary policy is a bit less predictable, where there are no better alternatives to has a store of wealth, where the medium of exchanges are not so certain, I think crypto is fairly powerful. And to that extent, centralized exchanges actually are the gateway for them to experiment, to get involved, and to participate in a global financial system that they have been to date excluded from. Now, the 300 million people, I just wanted to say before Didi says it, because I was reminded several times that Thailand is extremely well banked, but there are many people in Southeast Asia and around the world that are still craving this opportunity to participate, to lend, borrow, and, have a safe store of their value. One of the most interesting, I think, use cases that I think a lot of folks here can maybe relate to is remittance, which is just a very special category of cross-border payment, right? So we have lots of folks who are, whether they are working in Ghana trying to remit money back to their family in Tanzania, or Filipino health workers in New York trying to send money back to Manila. Centralized exchanges, once again, through our gateway function, can facilitate that function and allow them to circumvent some of the established rails today, which are pretty pricey. I wouldn't say exploitative, but, they're pretty pricey.
Yeah. Didi, anything you're seeing in Thailand that's a little different from, let's say, what Chinta has shared?
I think that the conversation whether crypto should be regulated has been, as old as we've been alive, right? But I do have to actually give credit to, the Thailand government having clear regulations. The fact that, for example, Bitazza has been working with the SEC in Thailand. We're licensed by the Ministry of Finance. We work with the Bank of Thailand, anti-money laundering. All of these things are enabling mass adoption because that means that we can do instant fiat conversion on off-ramp. And now that everybody understands that the smartphone can do more than just, very transactional activities, now you can invest in it. And the fact that also The second point I'm going to say is good governance. We've witnessed a lot of players globally, locally, kind of move with different intents. But that's why I think that we are still onboarding everyone every day by making sure that the products and services that we're putting out are easy to understand, and that people don't necessarily have to understand the technicalities behind it, but they just need to understand what that means for them. So this is essentially kind of, it's a paradigm shift that, previously, if you wanted to invest in, I guess, equity or commodities, you have to already come from, a certain background. But with crypto, with, also providing, license, products and services, also with good governance as our intent. That's how we are essentially driving the retail users, and it's a long game, right? Like, we don't really necessarily need to incentivize investment, right? We don't really need to push or urge for adoption with promotions. Like, this is a long game, and for everyone to actually understand and trust in it, it takes work, and it takes just different partners working together. And we said this backstage as well, that I think at this point we're all here to increase the size of the pie. And if we take just a slice, that's cool.
Ruam, you worked a lot with institutions. I mean, you yourself, you're one of the largest financial institutions. What are some considerations you guys have when it comes to this kind of difficult question?
I think that's a very good question. I think it'd be my key point. The first one would be trust. I think, when we talk about Web3, we talk about adoption, right? A lot of times, even nowadays, I believe we are from the industry sort of, so we kind of understand it maybe more. But for people outside, for the masses, maybe when they heard about crypto, they heard about Web3, we cannot deny that the kind of stigma is still there, right? So for institutions, for example, SCBX or SCB Bank, or our other group companies, I think we do carry that sort of image and the trust that our users accorded on us, right? So how do we make good of that trust while we are still innovating, while we are still bringing in new technology and innovations into our product and services? So I think, trust is something that I think that it's still very much relevant in the institutional players. And that's one of the key concerns, I think, for SCBX. If I could share a little bit, how we currently go about doing it is that we focus on building infrastructure. For example, we actually sort of use Wiboonma for our cross-border remittance on SCB GTS on the banking remittance itself. So we start from something that is infrastructural, something that may not sort of be the most directly consumer-facing things, but that allow us to innovate and explore while still allowing us to provide better financial services to our users. So I think finding that balance between innovation and adoption while still maintaining trust is something that institutional players are really looking at and really need to do good in that area.
And Chung, do you resonate with some of the trust aspects when you work with the different institutions? I know you work with UOB, you work with some banks in Indonesia as well.
So adding on to what Ruam say, that's actually very true, because like for us, we are literally serving like parties like them, SCB in Indonesia and Singapore. And usually the first thing when they say it's not about how much money they can earn, it's not about how extra profit they can earn, it's always about risk management, reputation, security. It's like for us, like we spend like each client easily, we need to spend 3 to 5 months just on POC, on integrating off their system first when they are safe, integrate on-prem, and then you can start talking about real use case after they already tested out. You need to ensure that their security is up to their enterprise standard. You need to ensure that in case if something happens, the asset they release on blockchain, they can intervene and control it. So I think knowing that banks like them, they have like years of reputation and history, they would not want small experiment to just jeopardize it, which comes back to the trust issue. Correct? Years of trust that's reliant on it. Yeah.
Right. James, you work a lot more with the retail. And you work in a geography that I think not many people here will be very familiar with. Tell us more about the dynamic over there in South Africa. How is it like working with retail? Are there any institutional considerations you have to make?
No, for sure. let me just ask you a question before I get into all that. So if I was group to group, right? Africa is like 10, 20 years behind LATAM 10 years behind Southeast Asia, which emerging markets. Can I get a show of hands? Entertain me. Who here grew up in an emerging market? Southeast Asia, LATAM, or Africa? Yeah, I see you in the front.
Two people.
2 people out here. All right.
Me partial.
You're not sure? Okay.
Yeah.
So I asked that question because the way I'm going to answer this is I'm just going to spare you what I was going to say with all the right political things to say. Look, it's just very simple. When you grow up in an emerging market, you just don't have access to the global financial ecosystem. I'm talking about as a 20-year-old in Lagos, in Sao Paulo, you can buy the Jambo phone, $99, which is 10 to 20% cheaper than the cheapest phone you can find there. There's 15 Web3 apps pre-installed. The Jambo app is just one of them. It's just their multi-chain wallet and your questing platform. From there, it tells you what to do in all the other apps where you spend time, like Matrix Fire, get to level 20, earn Matrix Fire tokens, earn $2. We provide you the off-ramp locally, whether that's Transact, Yellow Card, or local partners. That's us. We're building the infrastructure. So as a user, you can go into this one hardware device. If I didn't even say a phone, I would just say, imagine a hardware product that has all-in-one on-ramp, off-ramp, pre-installed Web3 apps and everything to you. So that is sort of what we're getting into. But to answer the question, I think having specific rails, banks like SCBX, to have guys like Hashed who have literally, you guys know Hashed in Korea, right? That's Hashed. You don't know Hashed Emergent, which they're huge in a lot of emerging markets that have brought us some of the best companies. You don't know, many of the guys here, Crypto.com especially, brother, what you said in the beginning, I agree with it 100% as well. It's just that I asked that question because it's very hard to explain what it's like banking the next billion users, because those billion users are not going to come from where you came from. To the people that didn't raise your hand, I thank you for shaking your head. I see you. Where are you from? South Africa, Cape Town, Joburg. All right, a little more dangerous. I grew up in Kinshasa in Congo, so about the same. But that's the people that will go 0 to 1. And just like you said, sorry, we just met today, but they don't care if they're on Solana. They don't care if they're on Blast, Ethereum. They literally do not care. They care that they can have the on-ramp and off-ramp. They care they can feed their family when they spend their time. Because what does every Web3 company need? They need users. What does every user in emerging markets have? Time. They'll trade that with you and spend time in your ecosystem if you incentivize them with your token. Which is the whole point of Web3 and having tokens. Except it won't work if you don't give them the off-ramp. They don't want, respectfully, they don't want just your token. They don't want J token. They don't want YGG token. They want if the J token and YGG token can convert to Filipino dollar or their local currency. So that's sort of the rails that we're trying to do. So just to cap this off, we started shipping our phones 1/1/1 this year, January 11th. We're shipping to 120 countries right now. 350,000 plus phones sold since the beginning of the year. Over 200,000 wallets created. That, in my opinion, is what really we're trying to do. Bring new users from these markets 0 to 1 into crypto.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's one of the very big reasons why Hashed backed Jambo back in the day. Was it been almost a year now? Maybe more than a year.
2 years, brother.
2 years. Okay, that's crazy. I think we always talk about unbanked, and we always talk about bringing people online or bringing people onto crypto, but we don't talk enough about the problems that they face, especially from an operator standpoint. I want to pose this difficult question to you, but if you had to pick one difficult hurdle that you face in your regions, what would it be? Maybe I can start with Chung.
I would say user experience. So let's say personally when we run Toko Crypto, we have like 5 million users, I think one of the largest in Indonesia. But when we typically see is they just stuck at using the exchange. This is part where how do you actually make them convert into a proper crypto wallet or the app, which I personally, even though I have background in Singapore, I still find it not that intuitive to use it. And usually, especially when we talk about Indonesia, emerging market, these are people who you don't even receive proper education. How do you expect them to know about security? How do you expect them to know about financial management or risk management? I think that's the part where it needs to be made a lot more intuitive. Like Indonesia, we have like almost 100 million what we call mobile wallet users. But we don't really see it converting it into a crypto wallet user yet. And I think usability is definitely one of the issues. Yeah, that's my personal thought.
And you think it's an education problem, or is it the products that are being built are just not as accessible yet?
I will have to sadly say in Indonesia, a lot of crypto founders are focusing on the exchange part. You don't really see many DApp founders because the more product you available locally, the more easier the people have access to education. But like in Indonesia, mostly you see GameFi projects, else is exchanges. You don't really see much DeFi kind of projects where that's the core part where they can really so-called learn about financials. Yeah.
Got it. Chinta, anything you're seeing in your region that you would probably identify as like the number one hurdle?
Well, Crypto.com is fairly global, right? So we operate across the world. Our business can be thought in 3/3. The Americas is one. So we're live in Latin America as well. And the take-up in Argentina and Brazil is especially strong for the reasons that you articulated. So couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, absolutely. I actually spent some time in Sao Paulo. So I was in Sao Paulo 10 years ago. I moved there, right? And you'll be amazed by... so I was thoughtful listening to Chung because we sometimes feel like, it's a UX problem. It's a bit funky. Will people on-ramp and get involved in a crypto ecosystem? But when I was there in 2009 in Brazil, you can buy a newspaper using a debit card on the street in Sao Paulo. So payments was actually fairly advanced because of the requirements of the market. Like people just needed a safe way to transact because of security reasons and also partly because of inflationary reasons. So I know that during this event, a lot of founders, projects have talked about usability, UI, UX, customer journey. I fully agree. I would like to think that the Crypto.com app is a very smooth process for everybody. But I also kind of think that sometimes one of the biggest challenges is finding the right problem to address. If fundamentally it's about exchange of value, like literally the blockchain is just a venue to exchange value, right? If you can find a good problem, a compelling problem for the user, they will adopt it. We should not kind of like condescend. It's not a nice word, but we should not presume that just because they are maybe not so financially educated, they wouldn't be able to get involved in the crypto ecosystem. I actually think they are fully capable of doing it, and we're seeing very high rates of financial adoption in a number of different emerging markets. Yeah.
Fair enough. Didi and Rom?
For me, I would say, so just supporting all you guys, your comments, I'm going to add on to that it's, for me, it's not just knowledge, but it's relatability. At this moment in time, I feel there is a disconnection between all the different projects, different chains. A lot of it is infrastructure layer. So that's why with Bitazza, we are focused on the application level on two parts. The part that is investment, it's on the phone, it's easy to understand. I just spoke about the instant fiat conversion on off-ramp. But on the other part, we developed a Web3 super app that happens to be on-chain. And we are essentially acting as the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3, and then essentially, fintech and non-fintech, which is all the other industries. Because until we become relatable, until we become, apparent in other industries, and, people in other sectors, tourism, hospitality, food and beverage, anything else, until they get to explore the product. So ours, case in point, would be the Freedom World application that essentially becomes a super app for any businesses, because previously, unless you come, so similar to, barrier to entry for investment, prior to crypto, the smaller guys did not have access to opportunities. So the same thing is with SMEs or, small businesses or communities. Unless you have a really strong funding, it's very difficult to even consider developing a mobile application. And the fact that we built this and we are essentially opening for all the other communities or businesses to just adopt it, whether or not the end users understand this is Web 2 or Web 3, it doesn't matter. They just need to know what they get to do. And what it is with Web 3 is the decentralization of it. The fact that, community owners or business owners get to communicate to their consumers, to the end users directly, and in a decentralized way where the data is not then becoming the product itself. This to me is how we're attacking this problem that is, barrier to entry and relatability, right? Until we take the blockchain to places it's never been before, right? Then it's going to become this very intimidating, kind of like just far away for everyday people to understand. So at this point, there's the only thing we are doing, we're all here to do is to show by developing real products and, being interoperable, being multi-chain, working together to co-create. So this is essentially our DNA.
Yeah, I always prefer when Web3 native builders are building a super app versus someone like Revolut. They try to come into our space and, they build a super app and try to distribute it to their folks. It may not always work as well, like what James is building or what Freedom's building. Ruam?
Yeah, I think my answer will also mirrors a lot of my fellow panelists' answers. I heard, regulations. I heard technological product, go-to-market users related challenges, right? So I think my point is sort of kind of reflects that in terms of how to move the whole ecosystem forward together to put the different pieces together, and is really challenging, as I believe my friends here have experienced it firsthand with all of you, right? I can give an example of investment tokens in Thailand, because our group company, one of them is TokenX, which launched a Real X, which is a condominium-backed investment tokens in Thailand. And why do I mention this? Because Chintan has mentioned, or Kunidi mentioned, Thailand is pretty well banked. We have 126 million bank account, and we have 70 million population. So I think for us, another area we're looking at is in terms of investment, right? Our users actually are well invested, are they like under leveraged in terms of the kind of investment they should be making? For example, we only have about 3.7 million account with the Thai stock market. That's like a lot lower than the number of bank accounts in Thailand. So users have bank account, but they might not be accessing the finance or investment that they should be making. So investment token is something that we are trying to also bridge that kind of situation using technology, using blockchain, right? So it's really difficult from the beginning to the end, from to sort of have the discussion with the regulators. They are supportive, but a lot of things are not done before, right? So how do we make them understand and work it out together? Okay, we work with our issuers who are supportive, but in the case of someone who might be more familiar with the traditional structure, how do we make it work for investment tokens, and then there's like the issue about technology, right? What chain, private or like a permissionless, all this thing, and even about secondary listing to, centralized exchanges, right? Because they are more used to the native Web3 cryptocurrency and not investment token. So how do we actually make sure that these things move forward together in the field that maybe no one has really done it before, to reflect or to really showcase the real world use case? So I think that's one of the challenges that we have faced. But luckily, I think things are progressing forward as we go along with the support in the ecosystem. Yeah.
Right. James, what is the biggest roadblock you faced when you came up with your super app and your Jambo phone idea?
For sure. I'll say this, right? The biggest roadblock Jambo is facing right now, there's two things: language and founder DNA. What I mean is language is, I'm from Congo, right? I'm from Congo, Africa, like West Africa. We speak French there. Unfortunately, we were conquered by the Belgians. So it's a French-speaking country. You go to Angola, it's Portuguese. You go to the rest of Africa, it's like English, Swahili. Our largest markets right now in LATAM, most of LATAM speak Spanish, right? Brazil speaks Portuguese again. So localization, like, this is a nuance. Crypto is on Telegram and on Twitter, right? These places, like, people are like, oh, Jambo is the Web3 WeChat of Africa, whatever. I'm like, bro, there's no Web3 WeChat. WhatsApp already won that. Everyone's on WhatsApp. E-commerce happens on WhatsApp in Africa. LATAM, same thing. Line in other countries. So that localization to the language and to the apps that these users use is really important, because community, in my opinion, is everything. Second, founder DNA. What I mean by that is, when you guys look at a token, I'm talking about take off your working caps, you at home, you're a retail investor right now, at night before you sleep. Okay, maybe you don't buy tokens at night before you sleep like me, but say you do, right? What do you look at? Is it A16Z backed? Is it Paradigm backed? Where the founder from, DNA, you're looking at those metrics, those holistic metrics, to see whether it's legit and you want to invest or not. Well, let me ask you this. When's the last time you've seen a founder in Web3 that's actually grew up in that region, in LATAM, in Brazil, in Africa, that raised money? They don't have that access to the VCs in the West, like Pantera, like Paradigm, that I was lucky enough to access because I ran a crypto fund in New York for 4 years before. So I'm lucky enough to be grown in the region I'm building for, but then also have the connects, I guess, to validate myself for retail to help me bring more money into the region. But most founders just don't. You're an African founder from Lagos, like you never been abroad. You understand the problems the most. You understand Web3, but how do you get Pantera to even know your name? Because that's how most of the funding works these days. So I just really hope these two problems can get solved. And I think that a lot of guys on this panel and sitting in this room is trying to solve for this bridge.
And if there are some of these folks that you've just described in the audience today, what is the one thing you could, let's say, give them advice for to access the group that you just spoke about?
Damn, bro, this wasn't on the script you sent me. I'm
No,
first for this question.
not always the script.
Now you said, what advice do I give people to do what?
I mean, to access, let's say, the A16s or the Panteras, right? Not everybody has the opportunity to run a crypto fund.
I mean, probably go speak to some of the panelists out here after they walk down. Crypto.com, they want some of the biggest investors right here. No, but for real though, like joking aside, it's like I don't know. You know what? If you genuinely are building for emerging markets and you're looking for funding there, I did that homework for you. It took us 2-3 months to talk to each of the investors. We're not even talking about Jambo or all that. We were talking about, like Paradigm led our Series A, we were talking about why is Africa or LATAM a sexy market? Like, what public companies are there? There's only one public listed company in Africa in Web2 called Jumia, e-commerce. That's not even African. It's Rocket Internet Brothers, respectfully. LATAM, there's D-Local, Rappi, there's a lot of others. But it's just very tough to get investors. And respectfully so, they haven't seen much exits. But they might not understand that Web3 with the token model is a little different. So, yeah, I'll say, I don't know, best advice, follow the right people. But I'll be here for another 2-3 hours. Come to the Jambo booth. I'll try to connect you with any of the dope investors I know that actually believe in what I'm building and that have proven themselves in the last 2 years to actually help me.
Didi, you look.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in here and just
Please.
mention the fact that it's very, very blockchain or Web3 native to even consider co-creation or working together. I think this is a mindset that, we all should really be adopting, because if we are still running the scarcity type mindset for business that is very capitalistic, that's like, I'm going to win and I'm going to murder everybody else, we're never going to grow. I think working together, especially also with this abundance mindset where there's plenty of, opportunities, plenty of users, plenty of investors, plenty of everything everywhere, and that we share and we build together. And I think that's how, new businesses or, people looking for funds or backings or whatever, like if you see kind of like projected growth of some company that's too aggressive, you basically understand that this is, TradFi all over again. Like they're here for their gains. And then you see all these other people that are just building for the sake of building. They're collabing, they're sharing resources, sharing ideas, co-creating. And I think, you will be able to tell very soon who your partners are, who you want to keep, around you. And then, let it be. And if that, if someone else is here to do scarcity business like before, cool, but at the very least, people like us, like Bitazza building our ecosystem, we know what we're good at, but we're not good at everything. If anything, we know the more we learn, the more we realize we need other people to co-create and build with us. And I think it's a very humbling experience to understand that you need other people for you to win and they win together with you.
Rom?
Yeah, I just want to say that I fully agree with Didi's point, like about collaborations. I think for me that's definitely the keyword of the day of the year. Like this event, Sea Blockchain Week, really happy and heartening and encouraging to see so many people coming into into Thailand, to Bangkok, and then so much exchange of information. I get to know so many cool people, and I believe that it probably has been pretty productive for a lot of you guys here as well. So I think collaborations, growing the ecosystem together, education, bring in people who are more diverse, people who are maybe not that familiar with Web3 and blockchain. This is, I think, one of the maybe only ways that we can build this and solve this like challenging problem of making financial services more accessible, more affordable, and simpler for a lot of our target users.
Awesome. I've got 30 seconds left. Chinta?
Yeah, can I just chime in real quick? And are they trying to smoke us off the stage? Is our time up? Are you guys seeing this? I couldn't agree more. I think it's about collaboration. I think within the community, you've done a great job, right? It's not just the folks in DeFi, but also some of the TradFi guys are coming in, like SCBX and others. We have a long-standing partnership with Visa, so that's about as TradFi as can go, right? But I want to pick up something Ruam mentioned earlier that maybe we didn't drill into deeply enough, which is around trusts and perception. Some people call it branding. There's a certain view of what the sector looks like, and I think that is one area we can take out common ground on. We all believe in the technology. I think it's going to make a real difference. It's going to bank the unbanked of the world, but at the same time, we need to make sure that people understand what it's about, both the potential. There are a lot of people who might be hyping it a bit too much, but that's fine. But also people who are like doomsaying, right? We got to educate users, make sure they understand what they're getting into, and fully realize the potential of this technology. So regulations are important, working with stakeholders is important, and Crypto.com is all about that.
Awesome. I am out of time, but if you want to find out more alpha from any of these esteemed panelists, please reach out to them off stage. They are very happy to talk to you. Thank you very much again, guys, for your
Thank
time.
you. Kapung ka.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.